Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on Christian-Muslim relations in Nigeria. I'm David Grafton, Professor of Islamic Studies and Christian-Muslim Relations and Director of the Duncan Black MacDonald Center for the Study of Islam and Christian-Muslim Relations here at HIU. We're delighted you're with us this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, wherever and whenever you are watching this webinar. We have a guest with us today that I'm going to have a conversation with, the Right Reverend Josiah Idowu-Fearon, Archbishop of the Anglican Communion. But before we get there, I'm going to introduce a colleague of mine, Katie O'Leary, Director of Engagement, who's going to speak with us for a few minutes about continuing and professional education opportunities at HIU.
Thank you. Thank you. So you might be wondering, what is continuing in professional education? So I would invite you to think of it as a platform. It's really where we provide learning opportunities for thriving in a religiously complex world. It's also sort of a portal. It's where non-degree seeking students can come to us for information. This can be organizations or individuals, people who want to audit a class, people who are looking for training. And it's also where we highlight webinars like today's program. And speaking of webinars, looking forward to today's, but I want you to look into the future a little bit. We are planning a 4-part lunchtime webinar series that explores the roots and the current manifestations of hatred and bigotry toward Jews and Muslims. We will, the format is 2 scholars who are going to focus on what's happening today and also look back to ancient and scriptural connections. So in order to stay in touch with us and learn about upcoming opportunities, I would invite you to look to the chat for a link to sign up for our newsletter. The webinar that I just mentioned, the 4-part series, starts. It's going to be starts soon in March. It's going to be Tuesdays in March, beginning on the 5th. It'll be from noon to 1. But again, if you sign up for the newsletter, which just comes once a week on Friday mornings, you will get all the information about that and other things. So it's wonderful to have you in the room today for what promises to be a really, really great conversation. So welcome.
Great. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate that. Hope everyone will join us in the future. So today, I have with me a colleague and friend, the Right Reverend Josiah Idowu-Fearon, who is a Nigerian archbishop and an alum of HIU, a graduate of our Doctor of Ministry program, formerly at Hartford Seminary. And he has degrees not only from HIU, but in Nigeria, Jordan, as well as Durham and Birmingham in the UK, my alma mater, University of Birmingham. He was a graduation speaker for us in 2017. Most importantly, I think for the worldwide communion, or at least in the world, he was appointed the General Secretary General to the Anglican Communion in 2015, which was an important time in the Anglican Communion then. Perhaps he might speak about that. He chaired the program for Christian-Muslim relations in Africa, or PROCMURA, for those of us, many of us who know that. He was a member of the Tony Blair Faith Foundation and one of the first 3 presidents of the Anglican Communion Network for Interfaith Concerns. So he has a long history of engagement and interest in interfaith work. He is now the director of the Center for the Study of Christian-Muslim Relations in Kaduna, Nigeria, and currently right now is serving as a priest at large at St. Martin's in the Fields Episcopal Church in Houston, Texas, as a kind of sabbatical for him. So I know he's enjoying that. Welcome, Josiah. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your introduction.
Yeah.
Just a slight correction. I'm at St. John the Divine.
St. John the Divine, not St. Martin.
Right.
Thank you.
Which is the younger brother.
And I've actually been there, so I should know that.
Yeah.
I visited you.
Mm-hmm.
So great. I'd like to have a conversation with you about your role and your leadership in Christian-Muslim relations, particularly in Nigeria. It's something that we often hear of here in the United States, but get little context about the relationships. And I think you can help us in that. So, first of all, could you just orient us about your role in the Anglican Communion before we get into the issues of Christian-Muslim relations in Nigeria?
Thank you, David. My formal role actually began in 2015, but before I was employed as Secretary General, I had been involved in two commissions. The first one was set up by the then Archbishop George Carey in 1998, after the Lambeth Conference, when the Anglican Communion, with the bishops meeting at Lambeth, came up with the resolution 110, which says, well, as far as our understanding of scriptures is concerned, at this moment, we will only accept marriage between a man and a woman. However, we are aware that some of our members have some attraction to same sex. We will not vilify them. We will not support their criminalization. We will listen to them and have pastoral responsibilities. So George Carey set up a commission. I think there were 13 of us, which included the man who eventually took over from him, the next Archbishop of Canterbury, and the presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church. We had all the big guys, and I was a small rat working with them. That was an opportunity to actually bring into bear my interest in reconciliation. So the next Archbishop of Canterbury also set up a commission, which eventually produced what became known as the Windsor Commission. That was a bigger responsibility. We met for 3 years and worked out a way of living together with a difference. And so these two commissions actually prepared me for the job I eventually accepted in 2015 as Secretary General.
Yeah, thank you for that. That, as far as I understand, that was those conversations were and continue to be very difficult for many churches in the Anglican Communion around the world, and have led to splits within the Episcopal Church here in the United States, as well as in other denominations as well. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So that did prepare you for some difficult conversations, or a variety of conversations among different. And then, so tell us, you came to then what was Hartford Seminary.
Yeah.
Why did you come to Hartford Seminary? Let me start there. And I'm interested in what you learned at Hartford Seminary while you were here.
Well, your predecessor, not immediate, David Kerr,
yes,
he supervised me in Birmingham at the university. My thesis was Jesus in the Quran, a Northern Nigeria case study. So when I finished that, I went back and started work on a PhD focusing on Sharia. So David and I met in Istanbul. This was it was providential. It was an international conference on Christian-Muslim relations, and I was there. He suddenly asked, "How is your doctoral work going?" I said, "It's not going at all." I said, well, why don't you come over to Hartford? What's Hartford Seminary? So he told me, and well, that was it. I eventually found myself at Hartford Seminary.
And what year was that when you came? Do you remember?
I came in 1990. I had just been consecrated bishop. So I came to Hartford Seminary as a bishop and worked under the supervision of David. My topic was reconciling a religiously disintegrated community using dialogue. So I picked on a small Christian village in Kaduna State called Wusasa and looked at the whole idea of the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians chapter 5, to look at the equivalents in the Quran. So I went back, prepared my material, went back to Nigeria, got 10 Christians and 10 Muslims, different ages, including women, and my notes turned out to be useless. So I sort of extracted everything from the people. And, you know, David, that exercise that gave me my doctoral degree helped me to learn the following. One, that there are many, many things we share together, even scripturally. Number two, that there is a lot of ignorance on both sides. The Muslims were shocked at the level of my understanding of their religion, and particularly the Quran, that I could pick and speak a bit of Arabic. The Christians were also surprised at how little they know, or they knew then, of the Bible and Christianity, and how these two religions can work together. It was that program that gave me the vision to start what is today known as Kaduna Centre for the Study of Christian-Muslim Relations.
That's great. When did you found that center then? After you went back?
The center was founded in 1999/2000, after the Lambeth Conference of 1998. You know, as I said earlier on, our focus was on keeping the Anglican Communion together. And we had a world conference on Christian-Muslim relations. And I was one of those on the panel. So that really encouraged me on my return to start putting into practice what Hartford Seminary, now Hartford University, prepared me for.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Yes. So first of all, let me just say to our attendees who are with us today, if you have questions for Josiah, please put them in the chat. Those should come to us, and hopefully we can answer them. But Josiah, can you help us understand a little bit about some of the issues related to Muslims and Christians, particularly in northern Nigeria, which is, I think, quite different than the southern part of the country, but perhaps there are similar issues.
Yeah. Thank you. You see, particularly the southwestern part of Nigeria. This may shock some of those taking part in this webinar and those who who will listen. You know, David, the number of the population, the Muslim population in the southwest of Nigeria is very significant, particularly in Lagos, in Ogun State, in Oyo State. These three states have a huge
Yeah.
Muslim population. However, the relationship between Christians and Muslims in the Southwest is superb. You don't experience the sort of thing we experience up north. I think that needs to be told very clearly. We have a problem, and I'm a northerner. That's my part of the country. We have a big problem in the north. The north itself could be divided into, I would say, two broad groups. The upper part of the north, which I called Northern North in my research work, and the middle belt. The middle belt is almost like the Southwest. And it is in that part that Christianity as a faith religion, as a faith tradition has grown. Because when we became independent, 1959 census figures tell this story. The Christian population was barely 5% in the north generally. But today it is significant. So in the northern north, therefore, the Christian population is minority. And I will want to correct one thing, which is very common in the West. They always say the Muslim North. There is nothing like the Muslim North. I think that needs to be corrected. It does not help our relationship. Having said that, so there are two groups generally in the North. You have the elite made up of the politicians, the religious leaders, and the traditional rulers. They are not leaders, they are real rulers. Now, particularly the political and the religious, they are very protective of their members. Anything that has to do with what Hartford Seminary stands for is suspect. What they want is lakum dinukum waliya din. You know, you have your religion, I have my religion. So this integrated lifestyle, the political and the religious leaders, they don't like it. So people like us who've come through Hartford Seminary, we are suspects. We're not good news because we encourage our Muslim and Christian followers to think broadly, to see that between these two religions and the communities, we have a lot of things in common. So, and the politicians with the religious leaders know that the biggest problem in the North is ignorance. The Muslims depend on the Malams. The Christians depend on the pastors and the bishops. In fact, there is a small article I wrote a few years ago entitled Malam Ya Che, that is, the teacher has said. In other words, it is what the teacher tells them that is the biblical truth or the Quranic truth. So when you now meet Christians at the local level, you will not believe that we have tension at all. They go to the same market, their children go to the same school, they work together in the same offices. It is when the leaders, particularly religious and political leaders, especially when we have elections, then the line of divide comes to bear. So what we need in the North in particular is education. Education to broaden the minds of the people without compromise. And as an Anglican, this is what I have brought into this field of studies, understanding between Christians and Muslims. That is, we can live with our difference. Difference is is a cardinal teaching in the Quran. The Quran says, وَجَعَلَكُمْ, right? Shuban wa qabila lita'araf. See, the idea of being different is there in the Quran. So what we do at our center is to help our students to see that we have a lot of things in common. We are not to confuse our religious traditions.
When I hear you talk about that, first of all, it reminds me of something I think we're experiencing here in the United States now, and that is division related to social media. We have people we're in our own particular echo chambers, and we have our own people telling us certain things that are pulling us apart. So that resonates with me right now. But a question I had was, you talked about the different politicians or religious leaders that are providing guidance or rules or whatever. Would that be the same, let's say, between the different Christian groups? So, for example, if you have Anglicans and Catholics, or like I know when I worked with Sudanese refugees, there was Dinka and Nuer, and they had some difficulties depending on what their leaders were telling them. Would that also be the same?
Yes. You see, apart from religion, the other problem we have in the North is tribalism or ethnicity. And it is so bad that we always say to our people, look at America. America is very diverse, and people don't use their diversities negatively. But in our context, it is one identity that our politicians harp on when it suits them. They either use religion or use ethnicity. All the other identities people have, they don't go into that. So it's a big, big problem. For example, this last election, it was very bad. I mean, religious leaders say, don't vote for this man, don't vote for Muslim candidates, don't vote for Christian candidate, vote for non-entities, vote for mediocrity. So they allow this passion for religion to take away our rationality. And we end up sort of fighting and killing each other. That's our problem. So it's not just religion, ethnicity and tribalism are a part of our problems.
Well, we are complex human beings, and we carry all kinds of things with us, right? Our religiosity, our families, our experiences, and yeah. We have a question that I think is related to this, and that would be one of our visiting faculty members from Indonesia wants to know about interreligious marriage or interfaith marriage, and if that's even a possibility in various parts of the country. You talked about how the Southwest is different than the North. I mean, are those things that as pastors or imams or as families have to deal with, or no?
In the North, it will be a hard sell. In the Southwest, it works. Secondly, even in the North, within the military, it works. But when it comes to civilian life, because of what I said earlier on, this protective weapon our political and religious leaders use, people don't like it. However, I have seen some very successful ones. But whether that can actually help to create integration in the North is something we need to think seriously about.
Mm, mm. Yeah, thank you for that. That's a complicated issue because we're human beings, and human beings have attractions to one another, regardless of ethnicities or religions. So given all this, where does the Kaduna Centre fit in? What is the role of the Kaduna Centre, and what are your programs? What are you trying to do there?
Thank you. Before then, Katie asked a question. Did you see it? The percentage of the North. I mean, the North is almost twice as large as the South, actually. But as I said earlier on, it is not monolithic. In order to encourage integration, we now have Northwest, North Central, and Northeast, just as we have Southeast, South-South, and Southwest. But the North, I would say, is almost 60%, if not more, of the population of the country. Yeah. Now, Kaduna Centre, like I said, the vision came from Hartford, my work at Hartford Seminary, now Hartford University. The main goal is to build an army of well-informed and respectful leaders, particularly in the North. Let me say that my focus is the northern parts of the country, the three zones, Northwest, North Central, and Northeast, but more particularly Northwest. That is the flashpoint of the country. People talk about North Central. Northwest is actually the flashpoint. The goal, therefore, is to produce this army of well-informed and respectful leaders who have respect for the other, and they are encouraged to live with a difference. So at the center, we have what we call a safe space. We are not a seminary. We are not a madrasa. We are not an Islamic school. It is a safe space where Christian leaders, and we are very specific about the student population. We've gone for religious leaders from the Muslim community, Christian leaders from the Christian community. We have pastors, we have lay people, we have men, and we have women. Our women, deliberately, most of them are graduates. And we focus on them because they are able to influence their homes. So we believe our ministry should actually begin with the individual in the home, where children are brought up to see other children as human beings, not as Muslim or Christian, as human beings with a particular religion. And that each religion, particularly Islam and Christianity, have a lot of things in common. God, we teach at the center, is one. Christians believe in this unity in Trinity, and nobody tries to explain the Trinity, but our students understand that Christians worship one God, just as the Muslims worship one God. And to practically demonstrate that, we have 6 lecturers at the center. 3 are Muslims and 3 are Christians. Even in administration, we have 4 staff, equal number. And each year we have 40 students from the Muslim side, 40 from the Christian side. And we pair them up deliberately. You spend the first year working together, you write your project together. The second year, you do the same. And our belief is that by the time you spend every weekend together for 104 weeks, no matter how hardened that person is, there should be some cooperation between these two. And then we send them out to their communities where they try to reproduce themselves. So it's practical and academic, because you've got to have a basic qualification, which is a first degree or national diploma. This is what we do at the center.
Yeah, I love that concept of the theoretical and the practical, or the academic and the practical. I think that's something we do here, and we've always lived by. That's important. I would imagine when you set things up, or when you were trying to set things up, that did you have difficulty getting buy-in from local leaders or local communities who may have wanted not necessarily to had the same vision that you did?
I'm still having that, particularly from my own Anglican church in Nigeria. Worldwide, Josiah is celebrated, but with the leadership, not the entire Anglican church in Nigeria, the leadership, which is mainly Southern-led. I won't be specific, but it's Southern-led. What my goal, my aim of creating a community or a society where there is respect for difference without taking up arms has not been bought by the Anglican Church in Nigeria. And every support I have received, nothing has come from the Anglican Church in Nigeria. It gladdens my heart, because it means I'm free. I can do, we can follow our vision the way we want. We've received some support from some individual Muslims who are personal friends, but a good number of the imams, they feel, well, this guy, we like him, but he should concentrate on the church. So I haven't pleased either side, but we're making waves. And to show that there is some appreciation, the government of Kaduna State actually gave us a piece of land right at the center of the metropolis, Kaduna metropolis, where we're now putting up our permanent headquarters. But I will say this, we are yet to receive a cent from any Christian in Nigeria, but we've had Muslims who've supported it. So we are making some impact.
Well, you know, there's an important person who once said a prophet is never received in their own hometown, right? So
that's correct.
That's
my experience.
Yeah, I mean, when you get involved in interfaith or at least my experiences, when you get involved in interfaith or interreligious work or activities, you often are suspect by not only others who aren't not sure what you're about or why you're approaching them, but your own kin who wonder, what are you doing? Are you betraying the faith? Are you sowing doubts? This is often the case, and it's hard work to bring people together across boundaries. So thank you for sticking with it. We have some questions about what we often hear about here in the United States related to the violence in Nigeria. Can you put this into context for us? I'm sure it's complicated, but we often hear about the violence that goes on, particularly in the north.
In the north, yeah. This is I'm grateful that you've come up with this question. I think there is some misconception in the West about the situation in the northern part of Nigeria. As you rightly said, it is a complex situation and it has some history behind it. I can say with statistical data to back up what I'm saying now, that the killings, the destruction of lives and property in the northern part of Nigeria is not religious primarily, but it wears a religious facade. Let me say this. A Fulani man with his cows grazing, the cows stray into someone's farm, eat up the crops. The farmer gets up and they fight. Lives are lost. Nobody would think of how it happened, that it's an unthinking or foolish cattle rearer that allowed his herd to graze, to stray into another person's farm. The farmer will say, well, I'm a Christian. This Fulani man is a Muslim. And he has killed my people because they are Christians. David, that is almost 80% of the killings in northern Nigeria. Number two, particularly since you started hearing of Boko Haram. I was at a seminar in London where a Christian leader got up and said, Boko Haram is targeted principally at Christians. I differ, and I have statistics to support that. Yes, Boko Haram are like Al-Qaeda. They want an Islamic thing, but whether you're a Muslim or a non-Muslim, as long as they see you to be in power, to be in government, you're an enemy. And in the Northeast, more Muslims have been killed than Christians. Now, as a religious leader, for me, life is life, whether it is a Muslim life or a Christian life, because we will all be accountable to God. I believe what we need to do is to encourage our government to be fair. There is no fairness. I agree totally. There is no fairness. I've been involved in the distribution of welfare where politicians will prefer to give welfare to their own members or to their own religious communities. It is on both sides. So there is violence in the north. And lately, it has even gone beyond Boko Haram. It's banditry, kidnapping. Unfortunately, people get kidnapped. For example, in Zamfara State is predominantly a Muslim state. Hundreds of people have been killed. You don't hear about them in the West. If people get killed on the plateau because the plateau is more of a Christian place, the whole West will take it up. So the West are not helping us by just presenting one side of the crisis. It is very complex. It is religious, it is economic, it is political, and it is tribal. It is people just want freedom, they want independence.
As all humans do, right? I mean, as human beings, we want
that's right.
security, we want a livelihood. Yeah, it's the same thing that we experienced in the world in 2014 when ISIS came along, and of course they were extremely violent in imposing their rule, but it wasn't only Christians, it was Shiites who received probably more of the violence than the Christians in the area numerically, and Yazidis. And so it's anyone who opposes a particular worldview, I think. And I love what you said about it's a person. A person is a person created in God's image. So, yeah. So what do you see as, we only have a few more minutes here, and there are some questions and comments coming in, but what do you see as the next steps for you at Kaduna Centre? What are you hoping for in the near future?
What I'm hoping for three things. One, the Lord has actually given me a foretaste of that. An organization that focuses mainly on the persecuted Christian. You won't believe this. They said to me, well, your ministry is not a part of what we focus on, but we will support you. It's because we're trying to complete the Kaduna Centre project. They gave us unexpectedly millions of naira. For me, to me, it speaks volumes. Here is an organization, principally a Christian organization, fighting for the persecuted Christians. But they made it clear, we will support you. All right. So for me, that's an achievement. Number two, because education is crucial to building this culture of respect for difference and living in peace with people who belong to another faith tradition. We definitely appreciate our memorandum of understanding with the Hartford International University for Peace. So we are hoping that with this partnership, we'll be able to imbibe some of the good things from Hartford International University. And you know, in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, certificate is something that is great. People appreciate that. So our relationship with Hartford International University will give us a boost. And I assure you, I'm speaking prophetically now. Once this thing, the deed is sealed, you'll be amazed at the number of people, students, who would actually want to enroll and have more to do. But finally, we are also, I'm hoping that the fellowship between the Christian and the Muslim student over 2 years, the program, the project they work on together, and the implementation of their projects in their areas will eventually sip through, like ripples, the city of Kaduna, the state of Kaduna, and the northern parts of the country.
Yeah, that's a great vision, and I wholeheartedly believe that. It's you get two people together, and then it ripples out, and there's an exponential effect there. So the Archbishop has spoken, so we'll accept that. Josiah, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit with me and have this conversation. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and please share this. There will be a link that you can share this recording to others. I want to give a very quick shout out to Bill McKinney, a former Dean of Hartford Seminary, who's joined us on this webinar. Yes, so thank you, Bill, for taking the time to join us. Thank you, everyone, and we hope that you found something that you can take away from this conversation that will be of benefit to you and to the communities in which you live and work. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, David. Bye.